All right, as people are joining, I am just going to give it one more minute. Okay, welcome everyone to our application updates training this afternoon. Thanks for joining in. We have a short training for you this afternoon, so you can look forward to getting some of your time back. As always, for those of you who might be new, this training is being recorded, so all cameras and microphones are turned off for the duration of the meeting, excuse me. If you have a question throughout the training, you can drop it in the chat or just hold it till the end and raise your hand using the feature at the top of your screen, and someone will enable your microphone, and you can ask your question that way. Otherwise, all of the materials, the slide deck that's presented this afternoon, as well as the recording, will be available in a follow-up email, as well as on our Teachall platform following the training. I think that's all for me, so I'm going to now hand it over to Randa.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you all for being here today. I am Randa Mead. I am the Senior Compliance and Data Manager with the School Nutrition Program. Today, I'm going over school year 25-26 TMAC application update. So as Lexi said, this is going to be a pretty short training because I am only covering changes, and I'm not going over the full application submission process in depth. That is going to be covered at the regional meetings, the third regional meeting. So we still have that planned for y'all as a training, but I am not going over that full in-depth process today, only the application updates. So as a reminder, the state of Tennessee does not permit the use of generative AI tools, such as the Otter app, in meetings hosted on state resources. If you are using an AI tool to transcribe or record the presentation, you will be asked to leave the meeting and have the app blocked. Since these apps are not secure or adequately regulated, any state data being shared during the presentation could be misrepresented, and protected data could be released to the public. We ask that you respect our decision to safeguard information. For meeting notes, please rely on materials only provided by TDOE, such as approved recordings and supplemental resources. And as Lexi said, the recording of this training will be posted on Teachall along with the slides that we're going over today. All right, our mission statement is to develop extraordinary school nutrition professionals and provide strategies to increase consumption of healthy school meals. Our agenda for today is to review application packet updates for school year 2025-26. That includes associated user confirmation and civil rights questions. First, we're going to go over the associated user confirmation. So as a disclaimer, the plan was to walk y'all through this in our test environment, but we're still waiting on some final coding updates from our vendor Link. So as a way that I could still present this information to you, they have prepared the following slides as a demonstration for what this will look like in your SFA application packet. So we're going to go over that now. Okay, first off, we're going to talk about this new area of the associated user confirmation. And to give you all a little bit of background on why we're doing this, if you've been a school nutrition director for at least a year, you've probably received an email from Latricia saying, hey, we see that you have these people who are associated with your SFA. Are these people still employed by your SFA? Do they still need access to TMAC? Please let me know. And it's a very manual process that takes a lot of time on her part to send out emails to each individual SFA, go through and track those and remove that access as needed. So in order to streamline our process, we have added this to the SFA application packet. So if you'll see here, this is a sample of what the 25-26 application packet will look like, and there's a new area called Associated User Confirmation. You can see that it says pending validation. The red arrow here means that this is a required action, and the status will be pending validation until the form has been saved and certified, which we'll talk about in depth on the next few slides. So once you enroll in the 25-26 application packet, you'll update your SFA application information, you'll do your CEP info, provide us any supporting documents. All of that stuff stays the same, and we've added this area of associated user confirmation. So you're going to click the details button. And after you click the details button, you will be shown this screen, and you'll see active associations. So anyone who is an SFA level employee and has access to your TMAC application will appear here. So let's say that you had a bookkeeper that retired and you need to remove them as an active association, or maybe you're a new school nutrition supervisor and you now have access to TMAC, but you need to remove the prior school nutrition supervisor's access. So what you would do is you would click remove beside the person who you want to remove. Well, let me step back and say what this slide actually says, because I'm getting a little ahead of myself. If you log in and you don't need to make any changes, you won't click any check boxes, you can automatically go down here and click, I hereby certify the above users and their roles are appropriate. You'll click save and go on about your business. So let's talk a little bit more now about if you actually do need to remove folks. All right, so go away. Okay, so let's say here that we have this test user. They're not actually a test user on your side. Like I said, you had someone who retired or you're new and need to remove someone with old access. You would check the box by their name. Once you check one of the boxes under remove, this button called Remove Selected Associations turns on. You'll see up here where I don't have anything clicked under remove, the remove button is not able to be clicked. But once I click beside a name, I can click Remove Selected Associations. Once I click this Remove Selected Associations button, that person then appears down here in the Removed Associations. So I wanted to remove this test A, clicked it, then I clicked remove, and then they appear down here. And you can make changes on this until you certify and save the whole form. So we are working on that. If you have to go back or get interrupted or something like that, you'll definitely be able to come back and make edits until you certify it. Okay, so let's say that you removed tester A, you definitely wanted to do that, but you also removed tester B. What do? Well, we made sure to have this developed in a way that you could make changes if you made a mistake before you submit this to us. So you meant to remove tester A, but you didn't mean to remove tester B. So once you click this button over here under the re-add column, you can click re-add selected users. And after you click re-add, they'll show up back here. So you can go back and forth between the users until you have saved and certified your application. Once you have all of your users set up in a way that is what you need, so you've removed the people that need to be removed, and you know that everyone who is listed up here in your active associations is really who needs to be associated with your application packet or with your SFA, you'll click I hereby certify the above users and their roles are appropriate. You'll click that button. And then once you click the button, the save button turns on. So click I hereby certify, and then you click the save button. After you click saved, you will be prompted with a pop-up box that says, are you sure you want to remove the selected association? Changes cannot be undone. Anytime you click I certify and save, this is going to say the same, it's going to have the same text. It's going to have the same message. Are you sure you want to remove the selected association? We couldn't code it to be different based on if you weren't removing anyone, but we thought it would be safer to ask to make sure you wanted to remove those. So don't be alarmed if this comes up and you haven't removed anyone. So once you click OK here, you're saying, yes, I'm definitely good. I'm ready to move on. This will save the form, and then you'll go back to your dashboard and you will see the status is completed, and you'll have a checkbox, and then you'll be free to go on about the rest of your application packet information. Once you have saved this, you can look into who removed the person and when, and it'll show up in this removed by column, and that's what is in the form after you've saved and submitted. So you'll be able to go through each year and see when someone was possibly removed. That's all the slides I have on the associated user confirmation. So I'll go ahead and see if we have any questions on this part before I move on to the civil rights questions. We can also come back to this if you have some at the end, but I do just want to go ahead and give the opportunity for questions now. I'm not seeing any at the moment, but I'll take a sip of water and catch my breath if you want to type in a question in the meantime. All right, still not seeing any questions, so hopefully that's pretty straightforward. Of course, once this is available and we're working on 25-26, if you have questions, we can always help you out with those. So now I want to go over some civil rights questions that we're adding to the application packet. These are being added to the SFA level application, and we touched on these a little before, and they've changed slightly, so I wanted to update you with the final questions that will be added to the SFA level part of your application packet. So the questions are, has the school food authority received any written or verbal complaints alleging discrimination on the basis of race, color, or national origin, sex, which includes gender identity and sexual orientation, age and disability, or retaliation or reprisal for engaging in a protected civil rights activity during the current or prior school year? So that's going to be a simple yes or no question. If you answer no, you don't have to answer the next question, but if you select yes, it will turn on this next question, which says, if yes, provide the date of the complaint, nature of the complaint, name of the local entity or program against which the complaint was filed, and to which agency the complaint was reported. The next question is, do you receive written assurances from subrecipients, retailers, and vendors confirming they will operate in compliance with all non-discrimination laws, regulations, instructions, policies, and guidelines to receive financial assistance? And then I've included this tooltip that's included in the application that is clarifying to say, when we're asking this, we're asking essentially, do you include the civil rights assurance language in formal procurement solicitations, contracts, agreements, and requests for proposals? The civil rights assurance language is different from the non-discrimination statement. So the next question is, what types of language assistance services does your LEA or SFA provide to ensure meaningful access for individuals with limited English proficiency? And then you check all that applies. The options are qualified bilingual staff for direct in-language communication, qualified in-house or staff interpreters for oral translations, qualified in-house or staff translators for written translations, qualified contract interpreters, qualified contracted translators, qualified telephonic interpretation services, qualified video remote interpretation services, language bank or dedicated pool of qualified interpreters or translators, qualified volunteer interpreters or translators, qualified interpreters or translators borrowed from another agency, adult family and friends as interpreters, children as interpreters, or some other option. Additional questions are, in which languages are oral interpretation assistance services provided? In addition to English, in which languages are written materials translated? And then there's another question between these, but I went ahead and put this one on this slide for the sake of space. It describes the procedural safeguards and notices provided to program applicants and participants with disabilities requesting reasonable meal modifications. And then the final question is, what types of auxiliary aids and services do local staff utilize when communicating with individuals with communication disabilities? And then you check all that apply. The options are qualified interpreter, in person, video remote interpreting service, note takers, large print materials, screen readers, assistive listening systems, closed captioned decoders, audio recordings, braille materials, adult family and friends as interpreters, or children as interpreters. And those are the civil rights questions that are going to be added to the SFA level of your application packet. You will have to answer those when submitting your 25-26 application packet. And then moving forward, and we'll talk about this more with administrative review stuff, we will start referring back to what you have put in your application packet on the administrative review. Just like we do with a lot of things, you're saying we do X, Y, Z. So then when we're on a review, we'll say, hey, you said that you had this material in Spanish. Can you just show us an example of this in Spanish? And that is how we will be looking at this and assessing that you're doing what you're telling us that you're doing. And that was a result of a civil rights review that we had. We didn't just automatically decide to do this for fun. USDA said that this is a requirement. So we are doing as we are told to do. And that's all I have for civil rights, as well as the associated user confirmation. Here's a QR code of our survey to give us some feedback on the training. And I know Lexi is going to drop that link in the chat as well. I think y'all all have my contact information. It's on the last slide. I'll show that briefly, but I'll leave this up for a second. And then we'll see if there's any questions that come through. Again, here's my contact information. And I'm not seeing any questions, but we can hang out for a minute and see if any come through. When will the application be available? We have not set a definitive date of when it will be open. We are still awaiting some final coding updates from Link with these changes that I talked about. And so I don't want to give a date in case we have to change it based on their timeline. But we will definitely let you know when it is open and available. A question, if we don't have any other languages in our school, do we need to do this? You will have to answer the questions in the application packet because they are required. And I don't have a really good answer on that. I think we will need to get you some additional information. If Marlia knows anything and wants to chime in, I'll give her that opportunity. But if not, we will take this question and come back to you with some responses.
Nothing to add at this time.
Can we have screenshots of those questions to send our ESL coordinator? We will have to gather that information to complete. It will be in the slides that are posted in Teach All, and that will be part of the follow-up email. What if a state agency person finds a civil rights issue on a site visit? Should they say yes to the complaint? I would also have to look at that question and get back to you to really, for us to say like, what is a complaint? Because I don't want to answer definitively either way and be wrong at the moment and that changed. So we will do some investigating and get back to you on that. Lexi, do you want to close us out for the day?
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Randa. Last thing before we log off this afternoon, you might have noticed our non-congregate virtual training has been rescheduled from April 1st to April 22nd. That information will be included in the follow-up email if you'd like the registration link for that. So our next virtual event will be our statewide quarterly update call on April 10th. But other than that, all of this information will be coming to you shortly, as well as the recording. So thank you for hopping on, and we hope you have a great rest of your afternoon. Bye, everyone.
Bye, everyone.